Hey, so if you always wanted to do more, but really actually do less, right? You want to do more with less, right? You want less stress, you want to work less hard, and you still want to accomplish great stuff. Well, what if the answer was as simple as the word value? Well, today I get to talk to my buddy Ken Wendle. Ken has written a book called The Value Formula that is fantastic, that is going to break it down for us how we can do more, how we can stress less, and how we can do any more of that. But Ken, is this really even possible that we can do more and stress less? Come on, man. There's so much to worry about in the world.
There's a lot going on, and it just seems like we're being hit constantly with different things, and but we if you've been in a job or a career for any length of time, you've probably heard those words. We need to do more with less, and you're sitting there thinking, well, is that even possible? Because the only thing you can really do with less is less. And throughout my career, I've observed a lot of things. I've listened to a lot of the people, picked up a lot of great stories and anecdotes where the kind of and I kind of boiled it down to the secret to doing more with less is to do more of the right things and less of the wrong things. And there's a lot of wrong things that people are doing. And the essence of what I've tried to capture in my presentations in my book is what are those right things to do that allow us to get better results.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important, right? It is not about doing more. It is about doing more of the right things and doing them
Right.
better as well,
Yeah.
right? So we want to continue to improve. So let's talk a little bit about your background though before we get into what that all is, because I
Yeah.
think it's important for people to understand why the heck should you even listen to Ken. And here's the thing about Ken, if for those of you who not don't know who he is, so Ken has been a big time consultant here. He understands process like few people that I know, right? He's founder and senior partner of Edify ITSM. He has got a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of instructing, a lot of consulting. And I met Ken, I don't know, 15 years ago, probably in HDI, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so like 15 years ago. So I've always been kind of the people guy. That's my thing. I'm not really as much about process as I could be. And Ken is a master at the process. So when he showed me this, he comes to me with this book. He's like, hey, buddy, I got this book, 5 simple things you can do to do more, stress less, and do more of the right
Uh-huh.
things. I'm like, well, this
Right.
is great. So let's talk about this, Ken. Let's talk about the V first, because I think the V really kicks it all off. And it's
Right.
funny, right? Because it'd be interesting if the word was valve, but it's not. It's value. So
It's
what's the
value.
V, man? What's the V?
Well, I always start with the idea of what is value, and there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of different definitions. I kind of my whole philosophy is kind of keep it simple. Value is it worth it to me? And there's a continuum. It's not like things either have value or they don't. It's not black or white. There's things that have a lot of value to me, and there's the things that have very little value or actually negative value. So I kind of start from that premise that what is value, and value is also not me focused; it's others focused. And the idea is like most people, and this is one of the dichotomies here. One of the things I struggle with is that most people are interested in what's in it for me, what's in it for me, and value takes a different perspective. It's more focused on what's in it for others. How do I provide value to other people? And that's the beginning point of defining what is value and how do we deliver value to other people. Is it worth it to me, and is it worth it to others? I mean, there's an exchange ultimately. But the V, as you mentioned, stands for vision. And one of the things I found that the organizations that really seem to kind of excel and really deliver a lot of value are those organizations that really kind of have an idea of where they're going, what their vision is, why they exist, their purpose in life, so to speak. And so vision is really important, because if you don't have something that you're moving toward, you're kind of going off in different directions. So vision gives that common goal, that common direction that we want to then focus on. So, I look at organizations, and I use Southwest Airlines as an example in the book, and I also use Southwest Airlines personally because their vision statement is to be the most flown, the most profitable, and the most loved airline. And if you talk to most people that work there and ask them what the vision is for Southwest Airlines, they know it and they've internalized it. They want to be the most flown, which means they want to be available to people and go, because if you're not available, you obviously can't deliver value. So they want to be the most fun. They also want to be the most profitable, in that they understand that if they're not profitable, they're not going to be around to provide their value. So, and there's a lot of airlines that don't exist anymore because they didn't recognize the fact they had to remain profitable. And the last one I think is great because they want to be the most loved airline. Now, think about that. How many people love an airline? And Southwest Airlines is always very, very close, if not to the top, as far as customer satisfaction and the value they deliver to their customers. And they're even their New York their stock trading symbol is LUV, and they're based out of Love Field in Dallas. So they want to be loved. And I always enjoy flying on Southwest Airlines. I just flew back from Florida this past Saturday, and it was a great experience. They make it. They set reasonable expectations, but they always seem to exceed those. And there's other organizations, Alzheimer's Association, to live in a world without Alzheimer's. Again, that's their vision, and again, it's inspiring, it's motivating. People understand it, and it touches something in people. So vision is really important, and people struggle with sometimes creating visions. And I give some really just solid pragmatic advice of how do you actually think about and then define a vision for yourself and or for your organization.
Yeah, I like the tips you give, and I think it's instructive to remember that a vision is not just for you, as you
Right.
mentioned right away, right? A vision is for all your employees. A vision is also for your customers and for your
Right.
prospects, right? For the people that you want to serve and that you do serve. And I think it's really important because it's not enough just to say, right? Like a lot of the old Dilbert mission statement generator
Right.
would create stuff. Oh, I want to create synergistic opportunities to da 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 da. And frankly, that's not vision. That's
No.
just malarkey. We talk in vision, like what is compelling about this? How does this really drive everything we do? Because I think without a vision,
Right.
we really don't have any value, right?
Exactly.
We really don't have any value. So I think it makes, for me, it totally made sense when I saw that the V was for vision in that category.
Yeah. And I think that's again, it gives us a focus. And I think that's one of the things that is kind of the secret behind doing more with less is that if you kind of put, and that's where the A comes into play, right, is alignment. Once you know where you're going, then pull your resources toward that goal, so you're not going all over the place. And so alignment alignment to your vision is critically important. Also, I mentioned the importance of being aligned to customers and give suggestions and ideas on how do you do that. Again, getting into your customer's head, what is it that they want, their perspective, and what's in it for them, but also staying aligned to your own personal values, working with integrity, your code of ethics that you work from as an organization. So alignment is, in essence, putting all the wood behind the arrow. So you're not diluting your efforts. It's more a rifle approach as opposed to a shotgun approach where you're going all over the place. So again, how do you do that? And I talk about some of the how inside there, but mostly focus on the why. Why is it so important that we are aligned? So I talk about what alignment is, why it's important, and then some of the ideas on how you can better align to your vision, how you better align to your customers, process in there on how to do that. Because you mentioned I'm kind of a process guy, and I guilty as charged. So there's some process ideas in there. And then, again, one of the saddest things to happen in life is to forget why we started doing what we're doing in the first place, and to stay aligned to our own, vision, values, goals, is an important aspect of that.
Yeah, absolutely. The vision sets the direction, but the alignment makes sure we stay on course.
Exactly.
I think that's really important. As we line up our goals, and we
Right.
think about, right, do they align with my vision?
Right.
Why am I doing this? Is this
Exactly.
still the right thing? Because sometimes things change, right? I think it's okay
Right.
to change, right? Because we're not talking about alignment as something rigid. We're talking alignment as something like almost like a filter that flows through that vision so that they kind of gel together. Is that right?
Exactly. And the other thing, going back to the vision of what we're aligning to, our vision can change. As you get closer and closer to the horizon, what you're looking at becomes clearer, and you begin to realize, maybe I need to change that a little bit. So vision isn't something that's cast in stone. It's something that has to have, you revisit it on a fairly regular basis. Are we still, is that still our vision? But again, I talk about the importance of understanding your why. Simon Sinek in the book, you start with why, and understanding that, why we exist in the first place. And then that should help us better clarify what our vision is. And then aligning to that again is to make sure we're putting the wood behind the arrow. That those two things are important, but as I kind of stress in the book, the observation of companies I've worked with, where I've seen success stories and so on, is that you have to kind of look at, well, what are the resources and capabilities that we have available to us? And a lot of people, they look around, especially when they're told you got to do with more with less. They look around, they say, well, I've only got these people, and I've only got these capabilities, and I've only got this much funding and so on. And they start getting myopic in what they feel they have available to them. And one of the things that I've noticed that the organizations and the individuals that seem to excel is they recognize this idea of leverage. And that's what the L stands for in, I guess that's what the L stands for in the value formula is L is for leverage. And I read this quote after I wrote the book, and I wish I had read it before, because I would definitely have used it in the book. But it says that if you don't understand leverage, then you're probably working too hard. And you see people doing this all the time. I have a cute little anecdote that I share in the book about a father helping his son with something, and he teaches him this idea of leverage. He says that's called leverage. Leverage allows you to do things that were difficult in a more easy manner, like using a hammer or a crowbar to pull out a nail rather than trying to pull it out with your fingers, which is extremely difficult. Or impossible. And that's the other thing, that leverage can help you do things that seem to be impossible and actually accomplish it. So I talk about leverage as being kind of a diamond-shaped wedge underneath the arrow that points to the vision, which is a star in the model that I create. And so leverage has different, like a diamond has different facets, and I talk about the facet of people. The friendships I've developed and the network I've developed over the years, and in all fairness, just knowing you, Phil, and having the opportunity to share these ideas, leverage isn't taking advantage of or using people. It's recognizing that there are people like you that are willing to help us. And I share a story about when Steve Jobs was very young. He picked up the phone book and called Bill Hewlett. Now, most people wouldn't think about that, but he called him and asked him for help, and Bill Hewlett actually helped this young kid. And he says that was a lesson that was so important to him that he just simply asked. And I think one of the things that you put in your recent LinkedIn post was about asking. You talk about asking for a discount. If you don't ask for a discount, you're not going to get it. And I found that there's a lot of truth to that. And I tell people, I had to ask. And that actually then gives you a little bit more leverage, gives you a little bit more. So asking people leveraging people, leveraging organizations. You mentioned we met through the HDI, and I've seen a number of people that have enhanced their careers by leveraging what an organization like HDI can provide to them. I think you also know I helped found the ITSMF in the USA. And again, I step back and I look at the number of people that have leveraged what that organization has provided to them over the years and how it's helped them in their career. So leveraging people, organizations, leveraging technology, today, with things like AI and social media and all the different technologies, they in themselves are not the solution, but they can be leveraged to help us accomplish the things we're trying to accomplish. Yeah. And so I give a number of examples.
Yeah, I think that's so instructive. And when we think about the root of leverage, it's lever. It is something that is there, right? If you think about it, even like a teeter-totter is a very simple lever that people can understand. And the further out you go, the more leverage you have. And that's often the thing. And I would say that's the value of leveraging a mentor. Right. Someone who's been there before, because they've got the 100,000 foot view that they've been there before. So they can go back and they can then help you leverage that even more because along the way, to your point, right, people, they've got some processes, right, that
Right.
they might have some technology, they might have some other tools that have come in handy, right? They
Right.
might have actually tried this before and said, you know what, if you just move it just a little bit to the left,
Yeah.
that's going to really work for you. So I
Yeah.
think, leveraging is really and it's interesting that that's the center of the book, right? The of the 5 letters, right? It's
Right. Of the 5.
which
Yeah.
totally makes sense. Again, as it sits there, right? We've got that leverage that
Mhm.
everything else kind of pivots around to
Right.
help that work, which is really super powerful.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. Um, and that's that. Actually, that chapter was one of the most interesting to write and one of the most fun to write because it's not something we automatically think about. But the very definition of leverage is using a tool of some sort to give us an advantage. Again, using a crowbar to pull out a nail. If without the tool, that that act is extremely difficult, if not seemingly impossible. So thinking about what can we leverage, who can we leverage, our partners, leveraging the expertise of a professional like a lawyer or a therapist or an accountant and their knowledge and their expertise. We don't have to know everything ourselves. We can leverage the skill sets, the capabilities, the resources of others, and that's an important lesson that I think a lot of people they simply don't think about, and I want people to think about that. So on the other side, also in a diamond shape that supports the alignment is U, which stands for uniqueness, and this is another thing that I found that the organizations that seem to really kind of excel, that do more with less, that get the results that they're looking for and increase their value to their customers and to their their stakeholders in general. Because the thing that we got to realize is that there's not just one stakeholder. It's not just the customer. It's not just the employees. It's not just the stockholders. There's a number of stakeholders, our customers, our partners, our employees. We have to think about that. But we've all heard the expression, you're unique, just like everybody else. But the thing that I stress about uniqueness is that we have these combinations of resources and capabilities, skill sets, values, things that are unique to us, the combination of things that make us unique. And Sally Hogshead, in her book Fascinate, talks about, that it's better to be different than it's better to be better. And she gives examples in her book on how to do that. And I was fascinated by that concept and idea because you think about, like Zappos, and I use them as an example, how they have, really kind of captured a market by really stressing their uniqueness, their difference, and how they go about it, and is based on their value system and their why. Apple, think differently, is another example of a company that that really has put out their uniqueness as a very competitive advantage. And so identifying what our uniquenesses are, our strengths, also our weaknesses. How do we overcome those? What opportunities do we have? Threats. So I talk about SWOT and how that works from a value perspective. So and I talk about the facets of uniqueness, our philosophy, our culture, our people. People always make the difference. And so many times, I love Richard Branson, how he talks about, we train our people so they can work anywhere, but we treat them so they don't want to go anywhere else. And recognizing that important aspect of uniqueness is the people that we have, whether we're a one-man shop or a large corporation. How do we how do we utilize our people to the best of their ability in enhancing our uniqueness? So I talk about the number of facets around identifying and then capitalizing on our unique contribution, our unique value.
Yeah. Well, Bill, give us, Ken, give us one of those examples. I'm looking at my own name. I apologize. Yeah. So Ken, talk to us, give us one example of how we might uncover some of our own uniqueness or organization's uniqueness so that we can really capitalize on that.
That's actually, I recently did a presentation, and I focus on this facet, or I should say this aspect of the value formula. And I talked about, when you're crossing a street, especially when you're little, they talk, stop, look, and listen. And when it comes to, like identifying our culture, culture manifests itself in a number of ways, but primarily culture manifests itself by behavior, how people act, toward customers, how they act. And so, so I make the strong recommendation, just stop for a second and look around and see how people are behaving. Um, are they behaving in a positive manner toward customers? Are they working well together? Is there a lot of negative politics in the organization? Look at the behavior, and then also listen to the stories that people are telling. Listen to how people talk to each other. Are they exhibiting respect for the customer, respect for each other, respect for their partners, and so on. So you stop, you look, and you listen, and then you act based upon that observation. What do we need to change, if anything, in our culture to to improve our value? And again, there's a lot of different stories. I can give examples of again, like Southwest Airlines or other companies that you kind of you when you walk in as a customer, you can sense it. And there was a book I read a number of years ago called the Customer Service for Dummies, and they talked about that when you go to your favorite restaurant where they know you, and they know, like we walk into a restaurant here locally where we walk in and they know us, and they know that my wife wants a glass of tea. Immediately they actually have it sometimes there before she gets to the table, and that I want to see the beer list. So they know us. And you think about that. This is someplace we take people when they come in from out of town. I recommend them on a regular basis. And they said, contrast that feeling you get with the feeling you get when you go to get your driver's license renewed at the Secretary of State's office or the DMV. Different feeling. And I'm not trying to put down those organizations, but at the same time, you can sense it when there's a real appreciation for the customer. So again, you stop, you look, you listen, and then you act on that.
Awesome. Great example. Great process there that we can use to find our uniqueness. So let's wrap up the book here with with the E, right? Because ultimately it really is about getting it done, right? And that's the execution.
It is.
And I think often this is the one gets missed. People are very theory driven, and then they don't actually do the work. And I would argue that the work is the work, right? You have to do the work. If you don't do the work, you don't have that. But it's missed. And so tell me, Ken, why is the value? Why do we need to do the work in order to be a person of value?
Yeah. If you don't have the execution aspect, if you don't take action, if you don't actually do something, then you can have the best vision in the world, try to align to that as best you can, figure out what you can leverage uniqueness, but ultimately it's about getting it done. And we have a culture of that, get her done, just do it. So there's a lot of things, like you go girl. So there's a lot of that in the culture, but execution is the secret sauce. There was a gentleman I worked with years ago named Jim Duff, and he rest in peace. I mean, he was a brilliant man, taken way before his time. But he and I were having a conversation, and we were talking about the concepts and ideas we were working with at the time. And he says, well, ultimately, he says people need to apply these ideas and actually execute. He says execution is the secret sauce, and it's kind of like mic drop, boom. And that stuck with me. And he was right, because if you don't do it, everything else, all the plans, all the things that you think about, it's a pipe dream. There's nothing there. So execution is basically, again, this idea of understanding what our vision is, aligning to it, setting the goals, the most important, most outstanding goals, and then measuring the right things, establishing it. People need to know where they're going. They need to understand what success looks like, and then creating a scoreboard so people can very easily say, where are we in relationship to that? And they need to hold each other accountable. So I share a process around execution that how do you had been keeping momentum going as well is an important aspect of that. And this is one of the things I think, when I was working with an organization not too long ago, they had lost like 30% of their staff. They were really struggling with, how do we continue doing it? And I said, you really have to focus on those most important things that are going to make the biggest difference for your customers and your organization. And we really focused on execution, getting those things done that were the most important things to get done.
Wow. Wow, that's so important, right? The most important things. And then you said something there that I think if I was going to add one more chapter to your book, it would be about accountability. It
Yes,
really would be, because I think that's important. And it's not just being accountable, like being a manager and holding people to account, but it's really being accountable to yourself. When I
okay,
think about value, right, being a valuable person, you have to be accountable to yourself. You have to be accountable
absolutely.
for results. You have to be accountable for your own alignment. You have to be accountable for the fact, like for me, right, like my glasses often are one of the things that people think are unique about me, but
Yeah,
really it's just how I view the world.
yes,
I think that, and I'm accountable for that, because that doesn't rub everybody the right way. Some people don't like that, because I'm certainly not a real good rule follower. So let's talk about accountability a little bit, because I
uh-huh.
really think that if we're going to wrap this up, right, all the value that is, I really think accountability is going to be one of those secret sauces that helps people actually execute on getting more
Yes.
with less.
Yeah, I talk about in execution. I talk about the cadence of accountability, and again, I look for other areas of inspiration, and the four disciplines of execution by Sean Covey and a few others, Jim Hulley, um, really resonated with me because they focus in there upon this idea of a cadence of accountability, holding ourselves and our teammates accountable for results. And you see this in a lot of organizations where they're more focused on CYA and hiding as opposed to like stepping up and stepping into the role of accountability, and making being accountable for the results that their organization and their customer needs. So I when you were talking about an additional chapter of the book, I was thinking maybe I could take the word valuable and add accountability, and I need to come up with something for B and L and E at the end of so like the sequel would be the valuable aspect.
Or the valuable individual.
The valuable that there's and this is something I kind of struggle with a little bit, because most people are kind of like you know what can I get, what can I get, and the value formula and value in general is really about giving and service. And you mentioned this earlier in our conversation about providing service and being a service mindset. And I'm a huge fan of the idea of servant leadership, that we that we're here on this planet. Our rent that we pay is the value we deliver to others and the service that we provide to others. And if you look at my career, I could have taken a different path, but I tried to figure out how do I serve an industry, put the industry first, put my personal goals behind that. But if they're in alignment, and again I talk about the aspect of politics also in execution, how they can get in the way. But if your own personal goals and convictions are in alignment with the organization you're serving, and the people that are part of that, then that's a win-win, and we look for that, and we want that. Too many people are trying to get their own, like what's in, again, this idea of fighting this what's in it for me mindset, and start thinking about what's in it for others. WIFO, WIFO, what's WIIFO? Yeah, what's in it for others?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Absolutely.
like, yeah,
Yeah, I think that is the shift, right? That's the shift
yeah,
from being just I would say, from a person of value to a valuable person, right? Which
exactly.
really
Yeah,
helps us there, and that's the difference. So the book is the value formula. You get it at the
mhm,
valueformulabook.com. But Ken, if people have
uh-huh.
questions about the book and they want to talk to you, is there a social media platform that is your favorite that you like to connect with them on?
I use LinkedIn a lot. Ken Wendle, LinkedIn. It's at Ken Wendle with no space or anything like that for Twitter. I don't use Twitter as much. I have a Facebook page, also the Value Formula Facebook page, and on my website, www.edifyitsm, all one word, edify, edifyitsm.com. There's contact information. You can send me a message. You can set up a time to chat with me. I'm always available from that standpoint, or at least at the times that I'm available are on there. But yeah, I would love to hear from people, get their input. I always feel that feedback is a blessing, regardless of whether it's positive or not as positive. So yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, great stuff. Well, folks, if you're looking to do more with less, you need to focus on doing the right things, not just
Right.
more things. You need to be a
Exactly.
person of value, right? You need to have vision, alignment, leverage, uniqueness, and execution. Nobody does that better than Ken Wendle. His book is The Value Formula. You can get the book at thevalueformulabook.com and check him out on LinkedIn. Have a great day. Thanks so much for joining me today, Ken. It was great.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure talking with you. Your enthusiasm is contagious. So thanks for helping boost my day.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing your value with us, Ken. Really
Absolutely. Thank you.